Hello! Yay! I think it's working. Yeah! Oh, technology is wonderful. So, hello and welcome to another Friday live with Ask Us Anything for Intrepid English. And today we're going to talk about the difference between be, get used to, and used to as a verb. So English learners often confuse used to, be used to, and get used to, okay? And let's be honest, very easy to understand. Why? Because they sound exactly the same, but they actually have very different functions in the English language. So how do you use them and what's the difference? Well, the difference between used to and be used to and get used to is used to is a verb. We use to talk about something that happened in the past. Yes, that's you. She can see herself in the screen. Used to is a verb that happened in the past and that doesn't happen anymore. So this verb to use to is only used in the past simple. So that's where you will only see it as used to. So for example, I used to smoke. Okay, it was a past habit of mine that I don't do anymore. Okay, then we've got be or get used to. So used to here is not a verb because we have the verbs be and get. Used to here is an expression that means we are familiar with something. It seems normal, it's usual for us. So it's like an adjective. So just as with any expression or adjective, we use it with the verb be or get before. Bye-bye, exactly. So let's look at them in more detail. So used to, the first example, where it is a verb and always used in the past, is to talk about the habitual past. So habits that we did in the past that we don't do now. For example, I used to live in London. You used to play the piano. He used to smoke. Okay, so it is always in the past simple and always followed by the base form of the verb.
Mama.
Next up, let's look at the expression used to with the verbs be and get. So be or get used to. So it means, used to here means how familiar, how comfortable, how normal, how accustomed to the situation or with the situation we feel. You've trapped that in the cup. Yeah, that's an interesting moment there, Emily. She's trapped her. I don't know quite how we're going to get that out now. That's well done, Mama. Okay. So I spent a winter in Siberia. Okay. Absolute madness, I know, completely crazy, but I was learning Russian and I wanted to have the experience of living in Siberia in the winter. I don't know what I was thinking, quite frankly. It was the biggest culture shock I have ever had. It was such an experience. So when I arrived, how do you think I felt? I think you'll agree, everything was strange, unfamiliar, uncomfortable. I definitely felt completely out of my comfort zone. I couldn't even ask for a can of Coca-Cola. That's how bad and how completely out of it I was. So on a scale of 0 to 100%, on how comfortable or familiar or normal I found life, I was at 0. Okay, at the beginning, I was at 0. Ça va, yes. Okay, I started to understand things and I finally spoke the grammar correctly, despite my years of learning in the UK. Wasn't what my teachers had taught me in some cases. So I finally was able to ask for a can of Coca-Cola correctly and ask for chocolate ice cream instead of vanilla ice cream. And I started to understand how the buses worked because you pass the money along the passengers, and at the beginning I thought the other passengers were trying to steal my money. I started to understand my way around the town or the city that I was living in, so I wasn't getting lost every day. I started to make some Russian friends, which makes a big difference. This was a process that happened over the 3 months I was there. So we can say for this period that it was on a scale of 1 to 99%. And oh, just put more in. What about that? Should pull that? Oh, you dropped so much. So on a scale, it's 1 to 99%. Ooh. And so I was getting used. Oh, so at the beginning, I wasn't used to that 0%. I wasn't used to living in Siberia. Okay, but at the 1 to 99%, as I started to understand things, I was getting used to life in Siberia. At the end of my stay, I could swear in Russian, thanks to learning from my new friends. I had my favorite places to eat, and I knew the city like the back of my hand. So there is at 100% on the scale of how comfortable, how familiar I was with life in Siberia. So I was used to living in Siberia. So at the beginning, I wasn't used to living in Siberia. Everything was strange. Everything was unfamiliar. I was completely uncomfortable. Every day it was horrible, to be honest. As time went on, I was getting used to living in Siberia. And at the end, I was used to living in Siberia. So we use the verb be when it's 0% or 100%. So either not familiar, not comfortable, not accustomed to the situation, or the opposite, where you are familiar, you do find it all normal. So when I moved to Paris at the beginning, I wasn't used to the Parisian metro. I got lost a lot. Now I'm used to the Paris metro and how everything works and all the lines and everything. I have no problems. I'm 100% familiar with it. I can help other tourists now. So be is when it's at 0 to 100%, and get used to is the process. How it takes over time we get used to a situation. So we always use also verb ing or a noun after this expression. So I was used to living in Siberia, or I was used to life in Siberia. So I hope that clarifies the difference between the two, and don't hesitate, please, to ask any questions below on any grammar points, pronunciation, or vocabulary you would like me to explain in more detail on another Ask Us Anything Friday Live. But that's all from me for this week and from Emily. And can't wait. Hope you have a wonderful weekend. So bye for now and see you next week.